Alright guys, welcome to my channel, bright and early in the morning, and by bright I mean very dreary, and by early I mean 7:30 in the morning because I can't sleep in on a snow day apparently. But today I am drinking Kenyan black tea with mango from Majuri Teas. Is that in focus at all? Oh well. Their profits go entirely to the education of orphans in Kenya, which is a very specific and interesting thing if that's what you're into. And it's very good. It's really that perfect balance of bitter and fruity. So today, I will be reviewing the Locke and Key graphic novels by Joe Hill, illustrated by Gabriel Rodríguez. I was testing this earlier, and it was about a 50-50 chance they would stay there. Alright. I didn't pick up these books with the intent of reviewing them. I kind of picked them up a little serendipitously, but I'm so glad that I did. So a couple weeks ago, opened Netflix, have like a million notifications about all of the originals they're making now, because that's what Netflix does, just shoves their content down your throat. And one of them was something called Locke and Key. Didn't know what it was. I clicked on it hoping to read more about it, and it automatically played the preview. And I watched it, and it was kind of one of those, maybe I'll watch it, but I'm not really all that into it kind of things. But then Monday, I went to the library to talk to the librarian here at school about some unrelated stuff. And right across from the they're plowing outside. I don't know if the mic's picking that up. But right across from the circulation desk is where they have their graphic novels. So she was talking with a student, and I started looking, and I saw Locke and Key, and I was like, sounds familiar, and I don't know why. So I decided to pick up the first 2 volumes, just kind of on a whim. Went home that day, finished the first one, and was completely hooked. So I went back the next day and checked out the rest of the series, and finished them by Wednesday. And it took a couple days to collect my thoughts, so maybe I wouldn't be insanely raving the way that I was when I did Starless Sea. But I loved them completely, and we'll try to be a little more coherent. So I looked up the reviews before I did this. I like to read views opposite mine. When I do write my review, I like to read the opposite because it's interesting to see. And there were 2 big consistent complaints. With the first volume in particular, there you go. There were complaints about the art style, which I understand. Let me see if I can show you a good one. The art style is a little bit clunky. In the first one, there's like kind of obnoxious use of shadows. I can't really find any good examples of how they look. Everybody looks... It was compared to a Gorillaz cover album, and I think that's fairly accurate. Trying to find good pictures that aren't remotely spoilery, and it's kind of hard to do. Let me just go to the art in the back. But that improves. Once you get past, like, the first volume, that's not an issue. The artwork in the rest of them is just absolutely, in my opinion, gorgeous and a little disturbing, but that's okay. But that was the one complaint about the first volume. The other complaint about the series as a whole that I saw was that it was a little slow. That was a complaint a lot of people had, was that the story took too long, and I'll agree with that. This is a very character-driven story. It's not very plot-driven, and I admit that if this was a traditional novel, that would drive me up a wall. I don't tend to like character-driven stories. I tend to find them boring. But with a graphic novel, it didn't bother me at all because, well, you get through it so fast that, like, you get the plot quickly, just because a factor of the time it takes you to read it. But that might be something that would bother somebody else. I think for this series it's very necessary. The entire drama, horror element of this story completely comes from the fact that you care about these characters. And you have to. If you didn't care about these characters, this story wouldn't be interesting. It wouldn't. So let's talk about the positives then. What I loved about this. I thought the characters were amazing. They're not likable at all, especially early on. But you just kind of grow to love them and care about them, worry about them. Like, I don't think I could underestimate the amount I was just so completely concerned for these kids. Not even just like, they're fighting monsters every day and that's scary and they might die. I just wanted them to be okay, like, emotionally. And that, to me, was just kind of amazing that, like, there's this huge, horrific stuff going on, but that little, like, family dynamic of, I hope everybody's okay, is what I was caring about. I think that really shows you how much I cared about these characters. So the story is about this family who has some really tragic, horrible stuff happen to them, and so they move to this home that's been in their family for generations on this little island in the middle of nowhere, New England. And they get to this house and weird stuff starts happening. I don't want to give too much detail about it because I kind of think it's good going into it a little more unsure. But the story was just fascinating. It was just such an interesting world. The magic was creative. I really liked it. To get into more specific stuff for books, I feel like I'm not very good at explaining why I like things. I can tell you the problems I have, but I can't tell you why I like it. The second one was the lowest one for me. That's the only one I rated 4 stars. The rest were all 5. And that's because I think the second one really is the one that suffered the most from the plot doesn't really happen here issue. It was very much a setup, and if I were to, it's middle book syndrome, but in book 2 of 6. It's not a lot happens in the second book, so that was for all of them the lowest rated. If I had to go to the next one, even though the rest of them were 5 stars, I think Volume 5 was a little bit weaker as well. Volume 5 has a lot of flashback, it's a lot of history of the house and the keys, and I liked all of it. I really thought it was really interesting, but I wish it had been spread throughout rather than just dumped on us right before the end, because Volume 4 kind of ended in a spot where you know the end is coming. You know we're about to get to that last final conflict, and then there's an entire volume that's just flashback and setup before we get to Volume 6, which was an amazing ending. I don't want to spoil anything for you, but I had a lot of fears going into Volume 6. I thought, man, there's no way they can stick the landing on this one. They're either going to make it all happy at the end and it's going to feel very unfulfilling, it's going to feel like a waste, or it's going to go full horror at the end and it's just going to be unnecessarily sad and depressing and dark. And they somehow hit that little Goldilocks zone of perfect. It was tragic. I cried a lot, which I did not expect from a graphic novel, but I was crying reading this final volume. But it still, everything worked out for our main characters in a way that was very satisfying. I won't say it was happy by any means. Like, this could have been a very, very happy ending, and they all lived happily ever after, and it still would have been incredibly tragic because there's no way you come out of the kind of trauma those kids went with and you're okay. But I think it really hit the happy medium there at the end. It's just really good. It's a relatively short read. I mean, it took me 3 days to get through them, and that's when I had work. So I only really read for a couple hours every day. And I got through them in 3 days, and it was so worth it. If you pick them up and the art style in the first one is giving you pause, keep going. If you're reading the second one, you're like, this is too slow, keep going. Because that ending is so worth it. So the characters, because this is the big strength, I do want to talk about the characters a little bit. There are 3 kids that this is really about. There's the youngest is Bodhi. I only know how to pronounce that because of the Netflix trailer. Bode. I would have said Bode. It's apparently pronounced Bodhi. Is like 5 or 6 years old. He's kind of one of those kids that like drives the plot without really doing anything in the plot. But he's just you love him. You're like, oh Bodhi, are you okay? You just kind of want to hug him all the time because he's going through a lot and nobody's there for him. His mom's a horrible alcoholic during most of this show, most of the book. Then you have Kinsley, who's the daughter. She's a teenager. She's going through teenager things. And she deals with it not healthily. And she thinks that you just want to hug her. You just want to be like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get through this. It's okay to cry. And then the oldest kid, what is his name? Tyler is just, he goes through so much, and he, of all of them, I think shows the most growth. He's a senior in high school, and he's dealing with senior in high school things, on top of all of the crazy nonsense, and it's just so good. I really loved these. I loved all of them. I'm just gonna go through and show you the covers of these while I finish talking. They were just the most wonderful of kids. And I wanted to hold them all and tell them all it was going to be okay, even though I had no idea if it was going to be okay. And that's really all I have to say about it. I definitely recommend picking it up. Even if you're not really typically into horror, I would say pick it up. Because it's great. Unless you're not into gore. If you have problems with gore, do not. Don't read them. You're not gonna like them. Or even if you like the story and you like the characters and you're enjoying them, it's gonna be stressful for you. There is a lot of blood. There's a lot of gore. I think it works for the tone of the story. I actually don't think it's excessive or overdone. I think it's very fitting. But that would be my one caution for, reasons not to read this. So, last little wrap-up thing. I kind of want to do something a little fun. Elliot Brooks on her channel does these 1-star reviews of, like, popular books. She did it for, like, Wheel of Time and Stormlight Archive and, like, books that are beloved among the people, the kind of, her audience. And one of the things I like doing when I finish a book is reading the opposite reviews from what I like. So if I rate a book 1 or 2 stars, I'll read the 5 stars and be like, why do people like this? But I also do it for when I rate a book 5 stars, I'll look back and be like, why did people hate this? And so that's what I did for this one, and I just want to read some of the 1 stars, give you some funny 1-star reviews, like Elliot Brooks does. So, this one is, yeah, you know those types of reviewers who start a review with, I cannot believe the high ratings this book is getting. You saw it here first. I am now one of those. So let's start. Cool cover. Since I cannot give this less than 1 star, the cover gets my 1 star. Which is true. It's a great cover. Partway through, there's an entire page devoted to someone being stabbed to death through the eye and throat with broken scissors. If I hadn't already started with the 3rd book by accident, I would have quit reading the series right there, or even in the opening scene. The characters by the 2nd and 3rd book are really good, but a lot of the series is just a collection of hateful, cruel people and other monsters doing horrible, frightening things to each other. Yuck. I honestly don't know why I thought reading this would be a good idea and why I thought I'd enjoy it. Everything by Joe Hill that I've ever read or tried to read invariably made me want to sleep forever out of sheer boredom. Same with his father, TBH. I would have loved it, but it was too gory for me. Literally the most horrid and depressing world I've ever been in. Feels like there's a murder on every page, abusive parents aplenty, and an evil witch lady man. Approach with caution. So, recommend this. Sorry all my reviews are raving, but I read good books. I'll see you guys in another video. Bye. Hey guys, I'm editing. At the time I recorded this, the Netflix show wasn't out yet, but at the time I'm editing it, and at the time you're watching it, it will be. I haven't watched yet. I scrolled through the descriptions of the episodes, and it seems like they're gonna take some creative liberties with the show, and I'm interested to see how that turns out. So when the show comes out, or when I get a chance to watch the show, I will, of course, record a review of that, both as a show, just on its own merits, and also as an adaptation, because I guess, technically, that's what we're doing here. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you think. If you've read some Joe Hill books, novels, and have some recommendations, I would love to hear them, because I'm really trying to give horror a chance, and I'm struggling with it, so recommendations are greatly appreciated. Okay, bye guys.